Welcome to this explainer, everyone. As a brain health researcher, I spend a massive chunk of my time digging into the invisible, kind of wild chemical mechanisms that actually drive human behavior. And today, we're unpacking a topic that's literally affecting almost every single one of us, whether we realize it or not. We're talking about the dopamine detox, a 30-day neurological reset. My goal for us today is to help you really understand your own brain chemistry, especially when it comes to motivation, focus, and that ever-elusive feeling of just being satisfied. We're going to visualize exactly what's happening inside your head when you interact with the modern world, and more importantly, how you can take back control of your neurological health. All right, let's jump right in.
Section 1. A story of overload.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at the daily reality so many of us are facing right now. It's essentially a story of overload. Why are we constantly exhausted? Seriously, this is a question I hear all the time in my research. You might sit at a desk all day, right? You probably don't lift anything heavier than your laptop or a coffee mug. You absolutely haven't done any grueling physical labor. And yet, by the time the afternoon rolls around, you are completely burnt out. The mental fatigue is just off the charts. Sure, you feel physically tired, but mostly you're just mentally depleted. To understand why this is happening, we really have to look at how we're starting our days.
So, think about your morning routine for a second. On one hand, you could have a perfectly healthy morning. You wake up, maybe do some light stretching, enjoy a moment of quiet focus, and just let your brain naturally wake up to the world. But then there's the overloaded morning. And honestly, this is the reality for millions of us. Your alarm goes off. You reach over to grab your phone to turn it off, and before your feet even touch the floor, boom, you've opened an app. Suddenly, you're trapped in this infinite feed. You're doom scrolling through the news, social media, random short-form videos. You are literally taking in thousands of data points, strong opinions, and super stressful headlines before you've even gotten out of bed.
And all of that leads to a very grim reality, feeling completely drained by noon. When you start your day with that overloaded routine, you are flooding your brain with intense, rapid-fire stimuli. You're basically asking your nervous system to process a massive amount of information and emotional triggers before you've even had a chance to eat breakfast. So it's completely understandable why you'd feel unmotivated and exhausted for the rest of the day. You haven't just lost a few minutes of time, you've actually systematically overloaded your brain's circuitry right out of the gate. Which brings us to Section 2, the science of dopamine. To truly grasp why that morning doom scrolling is so incredibly destructive to our energy levels, we need to transition from this totally relatable story into the actual neuroscience. Let's clear up the biggest misconception out there right now. A lot of folks think dopamine is just the pleasure chemical. They think it's just the little reward you get at the very end of doing something fun. But as a researcher, I need you to look at it differently. Dopamine is actually the brain's currency of motivation. It is the chemical that gets you off the couch to pursue a goal in the first place. It's the drive, the craving, the anticipation. Without this currency, you simply do not have the biological funding to take action in your life.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can break down the exact mechanism of this currency. How does dopamine actually drive us? Well, first, it anticipates a reward. When your brain predicts that something good is going to happen, your dopamine levels spike. Second, that spike focuses our attention completely on that potential reward. Literally, the rest of the world just fades away. And third, it propels physical or mental action. It gives you the raw energy to click, to scroll, to reach, to work. So when you're doom scrolling in bed, your brain is getting these constant, tiny spikes of anticipation and reward. You're rapidly depleting your daily currency of motivation on a screen instead of spending it on your actual life goals.
Moving on to Section 3, mapping your brain pathways.
You see, this daily depletion doesn't just make you tired in the short term. Over time, these habits actually physically shape your brain. If you're learning about brain chemistry for the first time, this is absolutely the best way to visualize it. Imagine the neural circuits in your brain are like hiking trails in a dense forest. The very first time you walk through the woods, it's tough, right? You have to push heavy branches out of the way, you have to step over rocks. But if you walk that exact same path every single day, you start to trample down the grass. Over weeks and months, it turns into a clear, wide, super easy dirt path. Well, your brain works the exact same way. The behaviors you repeat become the easiest, most frictionless paths for your brain to take. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens with our digital habits. We have literally created a doom-scrolling trail in our minds because we walk it so frequently. Every single morning, every time we wait in line at the coffee shop, every time we feel even slightly bored, it has become a deep, highly entrenched dirt path. It is now the brain's easiest route. So when you feel a brief moment of stress or boredom, your brain doesn't want to forge a new, difficult trail toward reading a book or going for a run. No way. It wants to take the massive, paved highway toward cheap dopamine.
Let's look at Section 4, the 30-day neurological reset. Okay, so we've identified the problem and the neuroscience behind it. But how do we actually fix these deeply entrenched pathways? Well, resetting your brain chemistry isn't some magic overnight fix. It's a structured, clinical 30-day process that happens in 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is awareness. You have to spend the first few days simply observing your cravings. Notice exactly when you reach for your phone or seek out that cheap dopamine. Don't judge it, just track it. Phase 2 is deprivation. This is the core of the reset, where you intentionally block out those high dopamine triggers. You delete the apps, you leave the phone in another room. Now, it will feel uncomfortable, for sure, because your brain is demanding its usual currency. And finally, phase 3 is re-engagement. After the deprivation period, your dopamine receptors have actually recalibrated. You can slowly reintroduce activities, but with strict boundaries and intentionality, ensuring that you are the one in control, not the apps.
Section 5. Daily Habits for Health. So what does this actually look like on a random Tuesday afternoon? Well, it really comes down to a clear contrast in your daily habits. On one side, we have habits that drain dopamine, things like doom scrolling, eating highly processed fast food, or engaging with infinite digital feeds. These give you a massive, totally unnatural spike of dopamine, followed by a really harsh crash that leaves your currency completely depleted. But then on the other side, there are habits that restore dopamine, going for a walk in nature, reading a physical book, practicing meditation or mindfulness. These activities don't give you a massive, crazy spike. Instead, they provide a slow, steady, sustainable release. Engaging in these restoring habits allows your brain's currency to naturally replenish, healing those burnt-out receptors. Let's connect these daily habits back to our earlier hiking analogy. The goal of this entire 30-day reset is remarkably simple. Let the old trails overgrow. By deliberately choosing restoring habits over draining ones, you are actively choosing not to walk down that entrenched dirt path of cheap dopamine. And just like a real trail in the woods, if you stop walking on it for 30 days, the weeds start to grow back. The branches fall in the way. The path becomes difficult again. You are literally rewiring your brain. You're making the bad habits harder to engage in and making the healthy, restoring choices your new default path. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Which hiking trail in your brain will you stop walking down starting tomorrow? Just think about your own mornings, your own habits, your own moments of exhaustion. You now have the exact neurological roadmap to change them. The science is incredibly clear. The power is absolutely in your hands, and it all starts with choosing a different path. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly, highly encourage you to take that first step on your 30-day reset.